In the previous video, we took a look at how to add an action listener to the different buttons. And we also were able to differentiate what the different kinds of actions. So if this, for example, if the first button was clicked, it would send the add action command. And if it was in my code, I said if it was that specific command, it would do something. It would do something. But if it was not something else, this conditional would be false, so it would not run that. I would make it do something else. So this is one of the ways that we'll see listeners being done, is that the actual you'll see the class implements action listener. Another way you'll see it is the class within a class, and this is where things get really confusing. Just bear with it. There are some rules that seem to be broken. Yeah, the idea here is like, if you have a car, a class in a class is like a thing within a thing. So for example, a car can have an engine, and an engine can do different things. A car can and so that's what the basic idea of having a class within a class is, having a thing within a thing. So in the previous video, we said implements action listener, and we would say use this thing as the listener for the specific button. Now, if you have a lot of different actions, then you probably you could consider creating more than one action listener class. So how you would do this, first of all, you can see this in the game.java, in the Square game. You can see that I've created, or the person that I borrowed the code from created a key adapter, extends the key adapter, which is a version of the key listener thing, in which they deal with the key pressed and the key released. For me, I'm going to be dealing with the action listener still. So let's go to the code. So we've got the basic frame, and we're going to create a new class, again still inside the class that I'm creating. I will say public class my button action listener I believe implements action listener. So the phrasing of it is very similar to what we wrote above. See in line 10, it says public class basic frame extends JFrame, implements action listener. 72, it also implements action listener, because that's what we're doing. We're using it as an action listener. I no longer need this as an implements, because I'm using something else as an action listener. And this action performed method, I put it inside this new class, this new set of code. And the change that I would do, the difference is, instead of using this, I would say a new button action listener. Please note that I am using those brackets because it is a method. Again, we'll talk more about that in grade 12. And so what you will see is, if I compile, there are no problems. Good. And then I compile here and I run. What you should see is the exact same code. If I click this, nothing happens. If I click me, it will count the number of clicks. Okay, and so just to kind of bounce continue with the program, when I click the second button, I want to change the label based on whatever's in my text field. So that's what I want to do. So let's say else if e.action command. Again, notice that I'm indenting and closing the brackets before I add all the code. And then instead of add, I want it to be change label. So if I click the second button, it will send this action command as change label. And if it receives this change label command, I want it to change the label's text to whatever is in the text field. How do I do that? How do I get the text field's text? Internet. Java j text field get text. And what do you know? The answer says get text. So that's how I can get the text. So let's go back here. If I click the button, I want to create a string, temporary string, or temp new label value is equal to, whoops, what was it? Test field dot get text. So what is my text field called? My text field is called the name text field dot get text. And then how do I change my label? JLabel change text. So how do I update the set text with your JLabel? Okay, cool. So I go to what's my JLabel called? My JLabel is called display text label dot set text to be hello new label value plus. So this is my version of hello world in GUI. Let's see if this works. So compile. Okay, it seems like I've got the right code. I run this. So if I click this, all good. If I want to type something like Mr. Lee, I click this, it says, hello, Mr. Lee, woo! And it works. Okay, and so that's the idea behind listeners. The types of listeners you will see, or how people will create listeners in your tutorials. The first video being that you have the actual thing as a listener, and this video talking about how you can create a separate class action listener to deal with those actions. Again, how you organize them, why you want organize them one way or another, not going to deal with that. That is up for you to discover.